Hi, I'm Candace.
And I'm Ripley.
And this is Comicsplaining.
The show where I can't make a joke about us being the Fantastic Four because there's only two.
Yep.
Today we have a Fantastic Four special.
Yes.
Today we're going to be reading Strange Tales 120 from March of 1964, written by Stan Lee, penciled by Jack Kirby, inked by Dick Ayers, and lettered by Sam Rosen. So, I was actually debating doing this one rather than, fully committed to it because if I stopped for every diversion where an X-Men is in the story, it'll be the year fucking 3050 before we finish the X-Men.
Yeah, and I definitely will not be going into every single Thor appearance in other comics because they're not always important.
But this is kind of a fun one. We haven't really encountered the Fantastic Four, Marvel's first family, so to speak, up to this point, and it kind of felt nice, especially considering that our second issue today is also with the Fantastic Four, so it was like a running theme, and I was just like, okay, this is kind of fun, let's see where this goes. It doesn't center too much on them as a team. The title really spells out what this one's about. The Human Torch meets the Iceman. Not a whole lot to say there other than it had to happen.
It had to happen.
Had to happen. So we open on the Fantastic Four testing one of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, one of his gadgets, because he's always making gadgets. And Johnny, the Human Torch, is reading the newspaper. After the paper calls Iceman a frozen version of the Human Torch, he declares that he'd like to meet him, which is dismissed fairly quickly as no one knows who the X-Men are, so how the fuck is that gonna happen? I wonder if this'll ever come up.
Why does Sue look like that?
Yeah, I don't know. I was really wondering why her hair is on crooked. Maybe she's just wearing a wig that looks mostly like her normal hair, but sideways.
Okay.
As people do.
Sure, as you do. Just like you do.
Also, the Thing looks just really sad.
I just noticed that. He looks so sad.
Looking at him makes me sad.
Yeah.
So he's gotta go away. But I also find it really charming how at this point when characters guest star from another comic, up at the top they'll talk about how it's courtesy of the other comic, as if X-Men isn't also by the same writer and the same artist and the same publishing company.
Right.
I find it really funny. They did it back in that crossover with Iron Man, too.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, Johnny continues to be bent out of shape about the paper's comment, but quickly forgets it to get ready for a date with his girl Doris. They're going to go on a moonlit cruise around the island tonight, and I'm sure nothing will happen that'll jeopardize this.
No, that'll never come up.
But since following Johnny around, watching him blow dry his hair and put on his cologne or what the fuck ever would be pretty boring, we instead turn over to what the X-Men are doing, where we have another pair of teenagers getting ready for another date. Warren and Jean are getting ready to step out on the town. Bobby is sulking over this. Apparently he wanted to spend some time out with Jean, but he's always beaten to the punch. He expresses this to Professor, who doesn't have all that much sympathy for his plight, instead encouraging just to go into the city on his own and have some fun, which she decides is a swell idea. And on the way to get ready, he spots a brochure for a moonlit cruise around the island.
That's very reasonable of Bobby, I think.
Yeah. So he de-ices and catches a cab down into the city. But in the traffic, he misses the departure time for his boat, so he ducks into an alley and ices up to hopefully catch up with it, because I'm sure that wouldn't be suspicious to any of the passengers on board. Which apparently it isn't. Nobody notices Ice Boy pole vaulting onto their fucking ship. Which, that's not how ice works either, but whatever. If I sit here and argue about every silly thing Stan does, we will also be here until 3050.
Yeah, that's true.
So no one notices that, which doesn't seem believable at all to me, but whatever. So after the third costume change in as many pages, Bobby is back in his clothing, setting to work, hoping to find a girl. And he does. He finds all kind of girls. They all have dates.
I mean, almost like this is a romantic moonlit cruise.
No kidding. He decided that he wanted to do this because it's wow, there's all kinds of teens mingling around. And it's well, yeah, but they don't usually just go on a boat to go on a boat. They're going on a boat with the boy or the girl or who the fuck ever.
Right.
So he finds a girl, but they all have boyfriends, so not too useful. He finally does encounter a girl on her own, but alas, when he asks her if she'd like to date him, she doesn't even break it to him gently. Instead, she just starts swooning about the guy she's here with.
Yeah.
Who turns out to be the Human Torch. Who could have seen this coming?
Oh, God, certainly not me.
Johnny makes a timely appearance, and Bobby quickly exits stage right, though not before freezing their sodas solid. Petty bitch. For what, the crime of having a boyfriend?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow, she's pretty. I'm mad that you're dating her.
God, I absolutely hate Doris's body type.
Yeah.
It's real bad.
It's real bad.
Like, older comics tend to be kind of bad about, like, women's body shapes, but this is worse than usual.
It's like she's severely corseted, like those people who can't ever not wear a corset anymore because their organs are all moved around now.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is, of course, a ridiculous move, considering that this is the Human Torch who can just heat them back up again.
Yeah.
But he gets a little carried away to the point that they're steaming, which is kind of gross. Nothing like a nice hot soda pop. Refreshing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I want.
So maybe Bobby's onto something there. Revenge is a dish best served cold.
I hope you die in your sleep.
Make it happen, motherfucker.
Okay. I will.
So, Bobby is more preoccupied with the Human Torch than Doris, which I'm sure doesn't mean anything at all.
No, never.
So that's the famous Human Torch. Boy, I'd give anything to be able to tell him who I am. Don't read anything into that, folks.
No, nothing at all.
As so many X-Men fans will tell you, it's such a disgrace that Bobby is gay, and nobody could have ever seen this coming. Ever. But anyway, he's distracted to the point that he literally walks into some suspicious dudes.
They don't have boyfriends.
Well, maybe they are boyfriends.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to assume.
He apologizes and then continues off sulking on his own, and the suspicious thug types get to their real work of trashing the ship's radio room. At which point, some of their cohorts pull up to the boat in an act of modern-day piracy. Captain Barracuda and his crew shore up, and it's a stick-up, and they quickly set to work relieving all the teens of their valuables. Which, they're teenagers. How much could they fucking have? Oh no, you stole my bus pass and $5, you fucking scoundrel. This was worth all this work, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So, they're about to learn, though, that they attacked the wrong boat.
They sure fucking did.
No kidding, not even one superhero, two of them.
Two of them.
One of them's mad because he doesn't have a girlfriend. Some pent-up hormonal rage.
Yeah. Both teen superheroes. Even worse than normal superheroes.
They've got all the power of puberty rage on their side. I have pimples!
Ah!
My voice keeps cracking!
Oh my god.
One of the goons attempts to rob the Human Torch. And one of the goons quickly gets his gun melted, which no one could have seen that coming, but I also really don't think was the brightest idea, considering that when you expose gunpowder to fire, you know what happens?
It explodes.
It explodes. And I mean, he can melt the bullet if it's hidden for him, right? But his girlfriend is right there, not to mention all of the innocent civilians all over the place, right?
Right.
So this is not a great plan, but no one ever accused Johnny of being the sharpest crayon in the box.
You know, he's doing his best out here, and that's all we can really ask of him.
I guess he did try. So he chases the goon off and quickly finds a place for Doris to hide so he can set to work on tackling this motley crew. Upon hearing the ruckus, Bobby also transforms into Iceman, as it seems that the Human Torch is destined to meet the Iceman after all.
Uh-huh.
No one saw this coming.
No.
And the two come together to fight the pirates. Some zany teen hijinks ensue. So Bobby freezes a guy's gun, and then Johnny accidentally thaws it out again by flying too close. Some pirates train a fire hose on Bobby and turn him into a solid ice cube. But then Johnny starts thawing him out just as easily as he did the gun. And then the pirates have a really bizarre plan.
Do tell.
So the plan is that they're going to trap the Human Torch in a canvas bag. Some of them are concerned, well, he'll just get out of it. It's not asbestos. He can burn right through it. But oh, that was the plan all along.
Okay, go on.
So the bag is on fire. Johnny is out of the bag, but Johnny can't let the bag keep being on fire or else the boat will be on fire. So he lugs the flaming canvas to the side of the ship to dump it overboard, and then the pirates push him over the railing.
Oh, I see. This was an interesting plan, indeed.
You see what I mean?
And again with throwing cloth on people.
Stan really does have a fixation on this.
I swear to God. Like, the first time I mentioned it, you thought I was full of shit, but it's come up, like, 2 more times since then.
So, a waterlogged Torch manages to haul himself back up onto the boat. But it's all up to Iceman now, because he's too wet to be on fire anymore, I guess.
Like Loki, his powers do not work when wet.
On board, the flames from the whole situation with the canvas are getting out of hand. Again, I'm not sure how this whole plan of have things be on fire was ever really a good plan.
Yeah. I see that Bobby is going bowling for bozos here.
Bobby is indeed going bowling for bozos. This is his reaction to the whole plan. So he makes several giant snowballs and rolls them over the fires first to extinguish them and to save everyone from the most immediate danger. But then he still has snowballs left, so he just starts rolling them into the goons.
Sure. He's having fun with it.
He is. He's a goofball. So Captain Barracuda takes a moment to regroup and finds some barrels of gasoline that this cruise ship just has on the deck for some reason.
Yeah, you know, like every boat does. Just has barrels of flammable material right outside.
Nothing like a romantic moonlit cruise with the smell of gasoline on the air.
Always gets me in the mood.
So Captain Barracuda gets these and takes them and dumps them on the deck because gasoline will melt through snow like a hot poker. And indeed, as soon as it touches Iceman's foot, it melts through his ice so fast that it burns him. I'm not sure how that works, considering he's been melted before and been just fine, just a little guy in his little yellow briefs.
Yeah.
But this time it hurts him. So he retreats a ways back to go hide behind a lifeboat to stop the pirates from hurting him. So the thugs are closing in on Iceman when fireballs rain down from the sky on the clubs they were going to hit him with. Apparently, Johnny climbed a smokestack to use the heat to dry off.
Oh, okay.
So the torch quickly shuts down the rest of the thugs, but Captain Barracuda finds and takes Doris hostage. And he absconds with her from the boat onto his own ship, the one that they got onto the ship with.
Of all the people on this boat, of course he had to take Johnny's girl hostage.
No fucking kidding. It's not even like she was just out on the main deck. You'd think he'd just grab some random girl, right? But she was hiding in some cabin or someplace that Johnny put her. So that's weird. Maybe the thug tattled that was his girl.
I guess.
It's the only way I can justify it, really.
Yeah.
So as he starts cruising away from the boat, he's gloating that he's the only man to beat both the Human Torch and the Iceman. And it's like, well, this is a very exclusive club considering that the number of people who have fought both the Human Torch and the Iceman is you. Yeah. It's a club of 1, dude. So just when he thinks he was triumphant, his ship rises out of the water on a pillar of ice and he's stranded. And Johnny swoops in to rescue Doris. And I guess Captain Barracuda just didn't think to shoot her at that point. But he rescues Doris and the day is saved. Yay. So Bobby heads on home and Johnny is almost disappointed because he'd like to get to know the Iceman better. And that's the end of our story.
I'm not gonna read into that.
There are some things to say about Johnny, too.
Yeah.
Pardon me. Pardon me. I don't know where that came from.
You had something in your throat there.
Yeah. So the rest of our issue, we have the story of Doctor Strange fighting a house, but we're not going to get into that, as spectacular as that sounds.
Might want to get into that. But go on.
We'll have a special episode where we just cover Doctor Strange fighting a fucking house.
I'm sorry, I don't want to get ahead of us, but what the fuck is going on with Jean on this cover?
They moved over to her not having the stupid hood on anymore, which I approve.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't really know.
She has a weird mask.
And the pointy mask is odd.
And her hair is
really straight.
Longer and really straight.
Because it was kind of curly before.
Yeah.
Whatever. Maybe she just straightened it. Maybe that was the look she was going for. Who cares? So,
I care.
Now that we're talking about this issue, let's say what the issue fucking is.
Do it then.
This is Fantastic Four number 28 from May of 1964 by Stan and Jack, inks by Chick Stone, and lettering by Artie Simek. So I really do appreciate that Jean has been allowed to pull her hair out, because it just made me feel uncomfortable secondhand, like I had mats and tangles in my own hair, just fucking looking at it. It drove me nuts. So I'm glad that's done. We open up on the Fantastic Four, hanging out. Alicia Masters has just made a lovely statue of Ben Grimm, the Thing. And Sue and Reed are reading about the X-Men in the paper again. This seems to happen a lot. Apparently they're quite the media frenzy right now. So they shoot the shit about the X-Men a little more, with Ben being generally unimpressed, but instead looking at the statue that Alicia made for him and remarking that it's better work than the Puppet Masters. Alicia's upset by this. She'd hoped not to have to hear about her stepfather again.
Aww.
So as Ben muses to himself, thinking about Alicia's stepfather, we're treated to find out exactly what he's up to. He is, at this moment, meeting up with the Mad Thinker, who has contacted him in hopes of roping him into one of his schemes. He wants to use the Puppet Master to create a puppet of Professor X from his radioactive clay, through which he can control him. That's not the worst plan in the world, but there are problems with it. Like the fact that the Mad Thinker can figure out what Professor X looks like by thinking about it. And the Puppet Master is able to reproduce his likeness with just a description. So a guy who has never seen Professor X, describing Professor X to a guy who has also never seen Professor X, is able to create a workable likeness, which is a lot. Sure, Jan, I kind of find that hard to accept, but we have to accept it because the whole story is based around this.
Sure.
Whatever, they do it. They got the Professor X puppet. Even though Charles fights back, eventually the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master are able to conquer Charles's indomitable will. And they waste no time having Charles call the X-Men into his study, where he orders them to destroy the Fantastic Four, claiming that they intend to conquer the world. The teens kind of feel like they have no choice because it's Professor X. That's not unfucking reasonable. He'll just make them do it anyway. You know how this bitch is.
I do.
Yeah. We're not even 6 issues in, and we know how Charles Xavier is. They take a helicopter downtown to the Baxter Building, where the Fantastic Four live, and they meet and mingle for a little bit and split off into smaller groups before Cyclops invites Mr. Fantastic and the rest to a supposed alien spaceship that they spotted a little ways out west. When Reed doesn't take the bait, things quickly come to blows, with Reed forced to dodge Scott's optic blasts before Johnny attempts to come to his rescue, upon which we learn that Scott can eye punch fire away.
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, he can just punch the fire with his eyes, and it won't hit him.
There's so much
That's a lot to take in.
Unpack.
About how wrong that is?
Yeah. I could accept that for, like, bullets. Maybe, if someone was shooting him, he could blast it away, but fire? Though?
Fire is a lot to accept.
I mean, okay, if it was, like, if his eyes shot wind, then sure, he could blow the fire away.
This is my new mutant OC with wind eyes.
You know what I mean, though?
I do know what you mean.
It's kinetic. It's like, okay, go outside, light a fire, and then punch it. And see what fucking happens.
I imagine burn hand.
Only if you punch super slow.
Well, I really want it to land on this fire.
Yeah, that's fair.
So that all happens.
It sure does.
How that works, I could not begin to guess. Similarly, Ben Grimm is showing Jean the statue that Alicia made for him. He's very proud of this statue. And she also invites him along to this alien spaceship. But he refuses, so Jean attempts to pick up the statue to make him come along, I guess, by just, like, almost the same principle as putting a carrot on a stick or something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say.
She's just gonna take the statue, so he has to come if he wants his statue back.
Sure.
However, she's not strong enough to sustain this on her own. It's too heavy, and she quickly drops and shatters the statue, which enrages Ben. If you weren't a female, I'd demolish you, but the only thing I can do to a nut like you is give you the spanking of your life.
Oh.
So that's a lot.
That's a lot. Let's get away from that for a second as I talk to you about this weird thing that Jack Kirby does where he makes all the characters squat.
I never noticed that before.
I've noticed it so many times, and I feel like I've tried to tell you about it before and you didn't get what I was saying, but if you read a lot of Silver Age comics, you'll notice a lot of the characters do this weird walk where they're like squatting. It's very strange.
I guess it's probably just to try and make it look a little more dynamic, but it is odd when you take it as a pattern.
Yes.
So anyway, Jean, true to form, she doesn't really put up with this. And she spins the thing like a fucking top.
Good for her.
To the point that he's making whirring noises. This bitch moving fast.
Yeah.
So the Invisible Woman stumbles onto this scene, and Angel and Iceman pretty quickly subdue her without much pomp or circumstance about it.
Of course.
Yeah. So while one half of the Fantastic Four are mostly handled, Beast and Cyclops are having a little bit of a time with the Human Torch and Mr. Fantastic.
Mr. Fantastic is a ball.
He is. Reed and Hank are grappling around for a bit, with Reed first being a ball that Hank has to balance on as they roll around the room.
God.
And then he throws him off balance by unfolding, and then he throws him. And then these fights kind of become one because the thing, I guess, has top rotated into this room that they're fighting in. The Beast and the Thing collide, and then him and Jean are both grappling with Ben for a bit before Bobby encases his head and feet in snow.
Okay. No, his feet are ice cubes.
Fine. His head is in snow and his feet are ice cubes.
He turned his feet into ice cubes, just like a glove.
His power. Ice cubes.
Ice cube!
Is Ice Cube the one in Are We There Yet, or is Ice Cube the one on Law and Order? This is really irrelevant. One is Ice Cube and one is Ice T, and I can't remember which one is which at the moment.
Ice Cube is the one in Are We There Yet?
Okay. I do need to point out that I'm not the only one confused because you had to Google that.
Yeah, I did have to Google that. Because as soon as you said it, I instantly was not sure of anything in the world.
Left to deal with both Reed and the Torch, Cyclops is now having a hell of a time, so instead of fighting them, decides to start blasting some of Mr. Fantastic's machines as a way of trying to force him to surrender. Which he does, trying to prevent Scott from causing some kind of disaster if he blasts some particular kind of equipment. I don't know if it's an explosion or if he's just very upset that he will have to make it again.
That's fair.
He gives up. But it's as much to stop Scott from doing this as much as it is to find out what the fuck this is all about. Why did the X-Men just show up at our house and start fighting us? Very
good question.
The X-Men, I'm sure, would also like to know why they just showed up at his house and started fighting him.
Yes.
So the X-Men put Sue in a locker and then leave with her to ensure that the others will follow. I'm not even gonna get into it.
Uh-huh.
So they make sure that Alicia is safe, and they find that one of the X-Men deposited her soundly atop a ledge just to make sure that she wasn't hurting a scrap. And they're like, okay, so they're being good guys about it. Really, what the fuck is up with this? What are they doing? So the rest of them, the Fantastic Four, well, the Fantastic Three, board their plane and they follow along. And the X-Men set down on a plateau, waiting for orders on what to do next. Sue's kind of surprised and confused by this. She's like, you don't know why you're doing this either? And they're like, nope, do not know. Waiting for orders. So the rest of the Fantastic Four land, and the X-Men are similarly confused as they are again ordered to subdue the Fantastic Four. They break into a brawl yet again, but this time quickly discover that the plateau has been booby-trapped after the Thing falls into a hole that opens beneath him. This is a much more reasonable thing with Scott, where he's blasting the Thing to keep him back. Like, that I buy.
Yes.
And I also buy the Thing pushing back against that.
Yeah.
That I buy. Fire, not so much.
I'm sorry, I'm very distracted by Reed in this panel. Being rolled up like a fucking hose. It's like...
If you unroll him, he can dispense stupid science talk.
It's troubling. It's very troubling.
Yeah. Another one of the Bobby traps is Mr.
The Bobby
Fantastic.
traps?
The Bobby traps. No, the Bobby traps.
The Bobby, why would you do this to him?
I can't believe Bobby personally rigged up a hose reel for Reed to get caught up on.
Fucked up, Bobby.
I didn't know Bobby masterminded this plan all along.
Honestly,
Fucked up.
it's a twist I didn't see coming.
The gays are on some shit
It was the gay agenda.
to stop the Hets from misbehaving.
Yes.
You two are doing too much PDA, Ms. Invisible Woman and Mr. Fantastic. I got off on a tangent there.
We did.
So a moment more and the Human Torch and Invisible Woman are wrapped up in asbestos straitjackets that look much more like purple blankets.
Yeah.
So with the Fantastic Four defeated, the Mad Thinker and the Puppet Master finally emerge from underneath the surface to look upon their victory and reveal their ruse to the stunned X-Men.
They still have to deal with the X-Men in that case, though.
Yeah,
This is a bad choice.
well, they intend to continue using the X-Men in the future through their control over Professor X, so I guess we're just going for the Puppet Master mind controls Professor X, and Professor X mind controls the rest of the X-Men.
This is fucking rushing nesting dolls.
So Professor X, through the Puppet Master, orders them to sleep, and one by one they all fall under Charles's power. Marvel Girl, Cyclops, Angel, Iceman. But the Beast resists just long enough to knock the puppet from the Puppet Master's hands and smash it on the ground and finally free them all from his power. So the X-Men are dealing with
He
this.
smashed it with his creepy foot.
Ugh, God, I know. I wasn't gonna comment on it. Stop talking about his feet. I would rather
Look
forget.
at it! Look at it!
No, it's
Look
awful.
at it!
This is someone's fetish, a man being crushed by a giant foot.
Anyway, go on.
I hate you. So while the X-Men are doing this, I'm so mad at you. While the X-Men are doing this, the Thing kind of stopped himself from falling any further down this hole, and it's just punching his way up the wall, making holes with his fists, step by step by step, until he makes his way to the top. And he disentangles Reed and frees up Sue and Johnny, and along the way they kind of learn what happened while he was stuck in a hole. It's like, okay, well no, the X-Men were being mind-controlled, they're actually okay. Well, they weren't being mind-controlled, but the person who was, their boss was being mind-controlled, and they just listened to him because they're dumb kids.
Yeah.
And now they're all fighting the Mad Thinker's awesome android that he stole from Mr. Fantastic. So Johnny warns the Iceman that it can take on the characteristics of his attackers, right as Johnny is being encased in ice by the android, which I don't get. I mean, he was on fire. Can you freeze a guy on fire? I guess you can. I'm dubious, but whatever. He's a block of ice now.
Okay.
He pretty quickly melts out of the block of ice, but whatever. So the two teams, even working together, are really struggling to bring the android down. So finally Professor X wakes from his exhaustion and reaches out, and somehow he applies mental pressure in the exact spot in the control mechanism of this android to shut it down.
Of course he does.
Yeah, so now as we've mentioned before, we're still ironing out what people can and cannot do. Magneto has mental powers that he shouldn't have. For now, Professor X can mentally shut down robots. Later on, that won't be a thing because they don't have minds.
Yeah.
Whatever, just roll with it for now. He shuts down the fucking robot. So the Beast chases the Puppet Master and the Mad Thinker through the interior of the plateau, but they finally give him the slip and escape through this plane that they hid in a cave inside of it. So the bad guys got away this time. So all that's left is to apologize to the Fantastic Four and then return home. No hard feelings. The thing is kind of not cool about the X-Men, calls them freaks, but I'd just as soon not get into it, because there's a lot to unpack there.
There sure is.
And I'm not sure that I necessarily want to talk about the mutant metaphor right now.
No, we'll get out of that later, I'm sure.
We've got plenty of time. For our next issue, because we do have time for a third this week as well, we have X-Men number 6, showing that we are not at all keeping pace with all these side issues, and this will absolutely continue to be a thing as we get more teams and more side bullshit.
Hey, Jean has the weird pointy mask here too.
Yeah, the weird pointy mask seems to be just sticking around for a bit. I don't remember how long it stays, but I prefer it over the stupid hood, so weird pointy mask, you're okay in my book.
Yeah.
So this one's from May of 1964, written by Stan Lee, pencils by Jack Kirby, inked by Chick Stone, lettered by Sam Rosen. Got that out of the way. You may notice that up in the corner, we're back to the long-necked weirdo Scott stamp again.
Oh, I didn't notice.
Giraffe Scott returns. So that's fun. So on our opening page, we have one of my favorite examples of the zany teenage hijinks you get with the 05 X-Men. There's a lot that needs to be addressed here. For start, let's get the sexism out of the way. The cook had the day off, so of course Jane cooked the meal.
Of course you did.
Fucking course. And then let's get down to the bottom of the page here for a bit. Bobby somehow thinks that putting ice or snow on his pie is the same thing as putting ice cream on his pie.
I think it's Stan who thinks that's the same thing. Does Stan not know what ice cream is?
It's a little late to tell him now, but ice cream has milk.
It is. That's fair. That's fair. We talk a lot about Stan in the present tense, and that's not entirely... Well, let's not get depressing.
Let's not get sad.
Yeah.
Remember how I mentioned Bobby eating ice and ice cream in weird ways, and this being a thing that keeps happening? Well, here we go. So we skipped the biggest thing that's happening, though, and that's Scott blasting Hank for having bad table manners and reaching across the table to get something.
Sure.
Also, Warren's being kind of gay about Scott. He's thinking to himself, this is the first time I've seen Cyclops smile in months. Old Scott should do it more often. Am I wrong here? Is that not a little gay?
A little bit. I'm just still thinking about Bobby with his ice. Why does he have to do that when no one's looking?
Right. It's not like it's a secret. They all know.
They know he makes ice.
Maybe the professor has tried to stop him from doing this exact thing. He is banned from putting ice on pie because that's not how that works.
Yeah.
The professor has more sense than that. It's not the same thing, Mr. Drake.
It's not.
Anyway, I think it's a good time to mention that whether it was their intention or not, I'm going to hold firm on my assertion that none of the X-Men are straight.
That's fair.
If you want more of Bobby's adventures in eating his slice of pie, flip the page, because you'll see that he tries to eat his pie with his hands, and it is rudely ripped from his hands telekinetically by Jean, and he clacks his teeth together in a way that looks really painful.
I've never had a piece of pie that I could just pick up like that.
That's
Never in
gotta be
my
one
life.
dry-ass pie.
Right?
Jean and Scott are getting very serious about enforcing good table manners. So, after the Submariner ends up in the newspaper, every issue today has gotten its kickoff with the newspaper.
Right?
The fuck is up with that? But Professor Xavier thinks they should go talk to him before he talks to Magneto's Brotherhood of Evil Mutants. Meanwhile, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants are also talking about recruiting the Submariner.
Of course they are.
Maybe he was also reading the newspaper.
I'm sure he was.
Suddenly in the doorway, Cyclops appears! Magneto pulls out a ray gun of some sort and shoots it at the teenager, only for it to pass right through him. He's like, what the fuck? When did you get that power? Everybody forgets about everybody else's powers fucking constantly.
Sure.
So after a narrow miss for several other members of the Brotherhood, the blast finally hits the wall, and it's revealed that it was just Mastermind practicing. Magneto doesn't take this very well.
I think that's fair. Why is he making visions of their enemies behind them.
Yeah, no kidding.
Randomly in the hallway.
No kidding. I mean, I think you're right, and that's fair. But he still probably shouldn't have shoved him, because that's mean.
Yeah.
Don't be mean.
Don't be a meanie head.
I mean, you kind of need him to do your shit, though. So, like, it's stupid to be a dickhead to him.
I'm sorry, Magneto's astral projecting.
Yeah, Magneto is indeed astral projecting again. Remember what I said? Magneto just can do shit that he does not do later.
Mm-hmm.
He lays down for a nap and sends his psyche out to find the Submariner. So, back in Westchester, we see the X-Men practicing in the Danger Room. Charles looks on approvingly before also turning to his own mental search to Namor. And he scours the seas for the prince. And he finds a certain kind of freedom in being able to get out of his body and feel like he's actually walking around a bit.
Aw, that's nice.
Yeah, I like that. And wouldn't it be cool to be able to project yourself out of your body and just, like, walk under the sea and see shit that you could not safely see?
That would be awesome.
So that's kind of cool. And that's what he's doing. He's scouring the seas, looking for Namor so they can talk to him first. And while he's down on the bottom of the ocean, he senses Magneto's presence and quickly makes himself scarce, deciding to let Magneto find him first so he can get to him. Kind of an about face on the whole, it's imperative we have to get to him before the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants do.
But Magneto is here and that's awkward.
Yeah. Last time we talked, we fought about it.
I want to see him. He's mad at me.
So Magneto finally finds Prince Namor in his throne room, throwing a temper tantrum over the fact that the Invisible Woman doesn't love him as he loves her. He blows up in an explosive rage, ordering his subjects out of the room. After watching this occur, Magneto chooses not to approach Namor.
That's fair.
And he approaches one of his advisors instead, urging him to tell the prince something that would make him leave Atlantis and join the Brotherhood, with the persuasive argument that the advisor could take the throne himself. The advisor's kind of down with this. Be nice to be the head bitch in charge.
Sure.
So back with the X-Men, Professor X calls the group together for a meeting and reveals that he has been tracking Magneto's presence and through this has found Namor. Also, Magneto has returned home to what must surely be his new headquarters now that Asteroid M has been destroyed. So I guess maybe this was his plan. He was going to let Magneto find him first so he could invite him home. I mean, what if he didn't invite him home and he just took him to a nice restaurant? Wouldn't this be awkward? They're gonna go and find his new headquarters since Asteroid M was destroyed last time. He's apparently heard some reports that some ship sailing in the North Atlantic saw an island with a strange magnetic device, but before they even had a chance to investigate, the entire ship was lifted out of the water and carried through the air before eventually being deposited near Bermuda.
The magnetic device is literally shaped like a horseshoe magnet.
It literally is.
It's incredible.
We've really backburnered this whole Finding Namor thing, though.
Finding Namor. That's my favorite. Is that a Pixar film? Shit.
It is a Pixar film.
Yeah.
God, Finding Namor. So, you're gonna let Magneto make allies of him first, so you have to fight him. But I guess they want to find out where he lives, so whatever. I think it's a bad plan, Chuck.
It is a bad plan.
Yeah. Well, the X-Men charter a sailboat to head into the North Atlantic. And zany teen hijinks, nothing important happens. Hank almost falls down, but Jean and Bobby catch him.
Hey, you know how we were talking about how villains typically wear green?
Yeah?
Professor X is wearing a lot of green.
Well, let's not talk about that, because if I get started, I will carry on forever.
Not to have, like, a galaxy brain take here or anything, but I just noticed he's wearing a green suit, and then he's wearing a green shirt.
I'm all about it. I love this. I love this notice. I love it. I'm in love with this. I would kiss this if I could. Bellissimo. Anyway, down below the sea, we finally see Magneto's new ally successfully sway the prince to at least investigate the offer. His crown and fur cape look, frankly, pretty ridiculous when worn with his scaled briefs.
Yeah. The crown is kind of weirdly shaped anyway, but this is definitely compounded by the fact that he's just wearing underwear and nothing else.
I don't know why you would have a fur cape or really any kind of cape underwater anyways.
Ugh, that sounds so gross.
It really fucking does. The advisor implies that Namor may be a mutant, just like this Magneto, and that finally is enough to pique his interest, and he decides to go check it out. So he hops into this weird jet-powered submarine dealio to head to Magneto's home. And after arriving, it's time for the battle of the egos between Magneto and Namor. Single name characters, you know. They got a single name, they're like Cher, Madonna, Namor, Magneto.
Yep.
None speak in the presence of royalty without first being recognized. Like, damn, son.
I mean, Namor's just like that.
He is, but it's pretty fun seeing it wielded against Magneto.
Yeah.
Who is also that bitch.
Yeah.
The Magneto is undeterred, though he realizes he's just not going to be able to do his usual use his force of will to overpower him thing, so instead he seeks a way to influence him. And he decides that through Wanda's beauty, she might be able to woo him to their side. So, as Namor investigates the island, the Scarlet Witch keeps an eye on him, and she does think he is fine, both fine and noble. So still mastering her powers, she attempts to approach him and touch his shoulder, but she accidentally fires off a hex bolt, causing some high-voltage cables to go haywire. Namor rips them from the wall, before taking a moment to recover from the jolt he just took. And finally Wanda has a chance to introduce herself and her brother, while Toad and Mastermind kind of gossip like a couple of bitchy mean girls.
Of course they do.
But meanwhile, the X-Men have finally found their quarry. Out of seemingly nowhere, Angel swoops down on the group, bearing a message for Namor from the Professor. He never has a chance to deliver it. Instead, Magneto tries to deliver a message of his own to warn Xavier off due to his powers, and he hurls any number of boulders at the kid before Namor finally manages to seize Angel and just hurls him through the air back toward the ship.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Just yeeted that boy.
He eats that boy so fast that his wings fold down against his side and he can't fly.
That's incredible.
So Hank manages to pull him out of the air to rescue him, but it's a pretty short-lived rescue because Magneto uses his new big magnet to fire off a ray of magnetic force that somehow destroys the mostly wooden boat.
I like how they're on a tall ship.
It is a lot.
I mean, this crew of
five teenagers and a man in a wheelchair.
And a man in a wheelchair crewing a tall ship.
Yeah, it's an odd choice.
I mean, I guess they had to be careful because they're fighting a guy with magnet powers, but...
You know, that is fair. I still would like to know how the magnetic rays just fucking destroyed this wooden boat.
Yeah, that's not how magnets work.
Well, Stan is like the fucking peak of fucking magnets. How do they work?
Yeah, miracles.
Motherfucking miracles. So Hank, yet again, is really going for MVP this issue after rescuing Angel. He also manages to find Professor X in the water and tread water with him held over his head in his wheelchair until Bobby can rig up an ice raft.
Jeepers.
Yeah, MVP. So they're heading towards the shore, and the X-Men suddenly find themselves in a thicket of thorns, and somehow take this as being legit, because again, we continuously forget everybody's powers.
Of course.
All of the time. They weren't there until a moment ago, and one of the people on the island is an illusionist. Get it together, X-Men.
No, they're definitely real.
So Charles apparently is also like, get it together, X-Men, and orders Scott to walk into the thorns. And he does, and shock of shock, the thorns are an illusion.
What?
Scott's like, we should have guessed, Warren. And it's like, for once when someone is saying they should have guessed something, they really should have guessed something.
Yes.
Because half the time, Stan will throw in a, we should have guessed, as like, how on earth could you have guessed that radiation made you evil?
It wouldn't even be a guess, it would be an informed fucking conclusion.
Maybe just reach out and poke them?
Yeah.
So finally on the island proper, Cyclops sets off to destroy the giant magnet thing that wrecked their boat. But Magneto marshals Pietro off to stop them. It doesn't go all that well though, because, well, Quicksilver and Cyclops can kind of match off one-on-one decently. Once the rest of the X-Men get there, they dogpile on, and Jean pulls an Anakin Skywalker. I'll try spinning, that's a good trick.
Spinning again.
It is a good trick, because he is fucking out.
Scott and Pietro kind of have a weird thing going on.
They do. I don't know what the fuck their deal is, because they do have... It's constantly just these two. Everyone else will mix up who they fight.
Yeah.
But Scott and Pietro are constantly throwing down.
Yeah, interesting. God, I can't wait until Wanda's head tube is gone.
It wouldn't be so bad without the bottom.
It's the back that gets me. It's a tube. It goes all the way around. Drives me crazy. It's almost as bad as Jean's head sock.
Oh, God.
It's literally almost the exact same thing.
It's the same concept.
It's just awful. Open at the top.
That's still better than not being open at the top.
I mean, yeah, but...
Wanda is pretty distraught over this. Her brother is out there and just getting fucking dogpiled by 5 riled up teenagers. And he is out of the fight. So she urges Magneto to do something to help her brother. And he does plan to do something. He's going to turn the magnet full force against a lot of them. Which doesn't do a whole lot to relieve Wanda, given that, again, her brother is there.
Yeah.
She pleads that he cannot, but as Magneto makes preparations, he threatens the Scarlet Witch with the same. And with this, Namor has had McFucking enough. All women are queens, says Namor. Not really, but he does say, I ally myself with no one who speaks to a female as you do.
I did not expect that attitude from Namor.
All women are queens!
This attitude, I wish it lasted.
So he smashes the control panel in a rage, as he do. This proves to be rather short-sighted, as Magneto begins hurling pieces of the control panel he just smashed at Namor, compressing him within them and squeezing him tight. As often proves to be the case with the Brotherhood, though, their distraction proves to be their downfall. As while they're preoccupied with Namor, Cyclops blasts the hole through the wall. The X-Men are ready to take some names and kick some ass. So the Mastermind does the best thing he can think of, and he summons up an illusion of this deep fog that they can't see through. So Bobby sets to work. I'm just gonna area of effect, freeze the whole fucking area, sort it all out later. Freeze everyone, deal with it later. Before he gets a chance to do this, Toad, Magneto, and Mastermind book it out, just in time. And they urge Wanda to go, but Wanda won't go, not until she finds her brother. And Namor's just there, I guess, still getting squeezed or whatever. And everyone is sealed in as what remains of the Brotherhood make their escape. Though they are sealed in and outnumbered, Wanda demands her brother's release, and Namor's quick to back her up, clearly smitten with the Scarlet Witch. He just cannot help himself with the ladies.
He's a hoe.
He sees the lady and he's just like, oh God, my heart, such beauty.
Same. I can relate to that.
Quickly, Beast and the others fight him some more. For some fucking reason. I'm not really clear on why they do this, but whatever. But Professor X quickly arrives to calm the situation down, with both Jean and Quicksilver in tow, though he does have Pietro under his mental power. Wanda pleads for him to free Pietro's brain, and he says he will, but first he starts to explain the situation to Namor. That he has no problem with anyone here, no problem with Quicksilver or the Scarlet Witch or Namor, only Magneto, who's been using them all as pawns in his own plans. Namor does not take well to being called a pawn.
Yeah. He's got a bit of a temper.
He does. So he rips up a hunk of the floor in a rage and threatens to hurl it at the lot of them. But Professor X is not scared by this gesture. He's convinced that the prince is no murderer so long as they don't attack him.
Sorry, so this hunk of the floor came out of a perfectly smooth floor that had no damage on it at all, and it's like cube-shaped, so I'm just like...
It's very odd.
Minecraft. It's Minecraft.
Oh my God, it's Minecraft.
It was Minecraft all along!
Also, the Beast makes a pretty hard threat, like, touch Professor X and the ocean won't be big enough to hide you, Namor. Like, that's pretty badass.
Yeah. Can't really back that up, can you there?
No, but it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So Namor finally leaves, convinced that he intends to make no alliance with any of the surface dwellers, and that both Professor Xavier and Magneto can go stuff themselves.
That's fair.
But before he can leave, he's met with a crushing force. It seems Magneto didn't fully flee after all. He merely retreated back to his giant magnet, which he turns on the Sea Prince. Namor is crushed down to the ground, and in a last-ditch effort for survival and a mighty display of strength, He hammers his fists down, hard enough into the ground, to destroy the foundations of the magnet and cause it to be destroyed. And without so much as a look back, he strides into the sea, headed for home.
Into the ocean and it all.
Into the ocean, heat up a Hot Pocket, because all this has made me really hungry.
I love the image of him just calmly walking into the ocean. So funny.
Sad Incredible Hulk music. So Magneto and the remaining members of the Brotherhood flee for real this time, and the X-Men head for home, but not before Jean says something that is either very jealous or very gay. I'm glad to see them go. That witch is much too attractive.
That's very lesbian of you to say.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's very jealous or very gay.
It's gay.
It feels so gay. And then Angel, of course, has to say something about how beautiful Jean is.
I'm not jealous, Angel. I'm gay.
The end.
Yay.
So that's going to wrap up our issues for today. What did you have to talk about today?
Not much. I did want to talk about yesterday I was giving some Thor Rex to one of our friends, and I was talking about how Volume 3 of Thor from 2007 is my absolute favorite Thor, but it's kind of inaccessible to new readers who don't know much about Thor. I don't know, I guess I was just kind of thinking about how inaccessible a lot of these legacy characters are. If you're a new reader, it's very hard to get into them because they've been around for so long, there's so much content, there have been so many different versions of them written by different people, and every now and then you'll get one that is just heavily referential to stuff that happened like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult.
It pays off really well if you've been reading all this shit, but it's super difficult, and I know exactly what you're talking about. One of the reasons I never wanted to read any X-Men stuff is because there is so much to even begin to get into it. And I have this whole thing where, and it has to do a lot with putting up with being a Star Wars fan and a lot of gatekeepy weirdo shit when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Where I have this need to know everything, so I don't have to put up with gatekeepy weirdo shit. If I know everything, no one can stop me.
Yeah, the barrier definitely was a thing for me when I was first getting into comics, because it took me a long time.
It did.
Because I was just intimidated by the sheer amount of content. Here's some fun background on me. If you haven't figured out by the way that I talk on this podcast, I am an enormous Loki stan. And I actually started reading Thor comics for Loki and just kind of fell in love with the other characters on the way. But I wanted to read Loki comics, but I just didn't know where to start because, especially with Loki, it's a little bit difficult because you have to kind of dig around and find where they are.
Yeah.
It's just one of those things where if you don't have the time to sit down and read the full order, it can be very difficult. And that is one of the things that we wanted to do with this podcast, is provide information for people who want it, but might be too intimidated by the reading order.
Yeah, and it's good to have someone hold your hand on some of this earlier shit where it's like, no, you're not crazy. The movies have not led you wrong. Magneto does not have mental powers. He has metal powers.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, definitely coming to the comics from the movies is a little bit jarring. We both obviously did. Basically anyone who started reading comics in like the last, 10 years at least, started with the movies.
Yeah, and that doesn't give you much of a basis if you want to start reading the X-Men either.
Yes, that's very true.
The X-Men have their own movies, but they're of dubious quality.
Yeah.
God, one of these days, our discussion topic is going to have to be me going through that list of the things I remember about each X-Men movie.
That's totally fine.
A lot of it's Magneto doing cool shit.
Yeah. That's very memorable.
It's like, oh, and in this movie, what I remember is Magneto lifts up a stadium and, well, mostly that.
Yeah, pretty much that. Yeah.
That's off topic, but... We'll get there.
Well, I'm not sure that we really have a topic because we've covered it all. Something I was thinking about recently is we have this theory about Mephisto, who is a devil in Marvel Comics. He appears in a lot of different places.
He is either the devil or not the devil, depending on what comic you read. He is a devil. He may not be the devil, but sometimes he is.
Yeah, so we have a theory about him that he was supposed to be the devil Satan, but they couldn't make him that because it was
the 5 Marvel Satans.
Yeah, because of it was the 60s, so they didn't want to scare off, good Christians.
And also
the comic
stumble
code.
back onto the whole thing with the comics code, which we said we'd talk about, but I don't really want to talk about the comics code in its full glory until I have a chance to do a little more research, just so I don't sound like I'm talking out of my ass, because there is so much shit that's affected by the comics code.
It's a big topic. But, so we have this theory that Mephisto was supposed to be Satan, but they couldn't call him Satan, so they call him Mephisto. But then later on, they do have, not specifically Satan, but they have characters related to Satan, like Damon Hellstrom, who is the son of actual Satan. And it's like...
Satana.
And Satana. And it's like, okay, so is Mephisto the dude, or is he not? And it gets very confusing.
Yeah.
And that's just one of those things that if you don't have the background on it, then you can't really form an adequate opinion.
You can kind of get a basic idea, but that's the kind of thing that led me to reading both Spider-Man and the X-Men reading orders from the beginning, because it's just so hard to wrap your head around.
Yes. If you start reading Thor at Modern Thor, you have to do with the idea of Thor having a secret identity. You're like, why is this important to anyone? You wouldn't know why it's important unless you read the very, very old stuff.
Yeah. This is only semi-related, but I know I was talking a few minutes ago about how I never wanted to start reading X-Men because there's so much shit, and I'd read Spider-Man from the beginning, and I still didn't know shit about the X-Men. Even after reading all the stuff, all the guest appearances, it's like, the fuck? I mean, I get the general idea of what they're about, but like, who the fuck are they? Why are they doing certain things that they're doing? Like, what the fuck is going on with that? Okay, they don't have to fight in the Civil War? Fucking why? And then it's like, okay, well, so I was reading through all this stuff, and then I decided I was going to read all the stuff with Ultimate Spider-Man and Miles, and then it's like, oh, well, Miles is in the Champions, and it's like, oh, well, that's cool. Miles is in the Champions. Then I got Trojan horsed into reading the X-Men because I loved Baby Scott. Champions is a Trojan horse.
That was so funny, honestly.
It's like, oh no. Oh, god damn it. No.
Yeah.
And you were hearing this shit like in real time.
Yeah, it was very funny because it was like a slow dawning sense of dread where they were like, oh god, I really like Scott. Oh fuck, I have to read the X-Men now.
Yeah, it's like, I think I'm gonna read, I'm just gonna read the stuff to give him context. So I read the first volume of All New X-Men, and I was like, well, what I could really use to give this some context, I would like to know what happened before, and it was just a slippery slope of me trying desperately not to fall and failing, like, oh no!
Yeah, and I absolutely did not help you with that.
No. Not helpful.
No, not at all.
Anytime I say I want to do something that is going to be stupid or take a lot of effort to put in, and you're just like, do it. You want to do it? Do it. And I'm like, oh my god, fuck you. Don't tell me to do it because I'll do it.
I'm just trying to be supportive.
Oh my god, I know. But it's awful. All right. Well, that's going to be it for us this week. We do have to hit a couple points. We did get some feedback on what the fuck was going on with Angel and the high voltage wires. So all of my asking for input, we finally got some feedback.
Yeah, so if you're like me and you don't know what the fuck we're talking about, think back to episode 5 where Angel attacked some guys with some wires and somehow did not get electrocuted.
And we didn't know, it's like, is this because he's not grounded or what? Well, long story short, let's see. The answer, quote unquote, is, well, the answer is it's complicated and it depends on a lot of factors, but yes, it's because he wasn't grounded, if anything other than Stan's science. If there was too much power running through them, though, it would have arced right through him into the ground. Thank you!
Yeah, shout out to my brother who said that to me.
Your brother is answering the real questions, and I forgot to give any questions that we needed answered. I didn't really think of anything that had bizarre niche knowledge.
No.
In this one. Oh, listeners at home, if you know any reason why there would be gasoline barrels stored on a cruise ship, send us feedback at comicsplaining@gmail.com.
Yeah.
And that's going to segue nicely into our stuff, places you can reach us. The email, right there, comicsplaining@gmail.com. You can find us on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, or Tumblr, all Comicsplaining. We are also on Patreon at Comicsplaining, if you want to donate, because that would be really nice of you. But no pressure. We also put a video version of this podcast up every week. We're considering staggering the release date, but just check in once a week and you will see a version of this with, well, some of the clips of the stuff we're talking about when you want to see how silly something is.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you're going to find it on our YouTube. Please review us on Podchaser or iTunes if you listen on there. We would really appreciate that. Review us, 5-star us. We love you.
We will love you more if you give us 5 stars.
Yeah, you're going to go... Beast was the MVP for that one issue. You will be the MVP.
For all time.
Of all time. Well, what if we get more? Will Robin have to duke it out for MVP status?
Yes.
Oh, wow. This is a lot of pressure. We're going to have to set up like a tournament system.
Yeah, of course.
All right. Well, if you want to join our Marvel Puzzle Quest Alliance, we are number 6, the number 1, the word fix, like fixing your car. 6-1-FIX. There are 5 of us there, most of which are active. We can always use more because we like to beat team events, and there are not enough of us to do it right now.
Yeah.
So join us there. We'd really enjoy that.
Please check out my webcomic. It is on Tapas and it's called Ephemeris, Ephemeris. Please check it out. And also, come watch me play D&D every Sunday at 7 p.m. EST at twitch.tv/droptune.
That's going to wrap things up for us tonight. Listen to us next week. We are going to be back with Thor again.
Yep.
All right. We'll talk to you then. Bye.
Bye.